Hi, everyone. Let's talk about cluster analysis. Cluster analysis is a powerful tool that falls under the category of unsupervised learning. What that means is we don't start with pre-labeled categories. Instead, we let the data organize itself into groups based on shared characteristics. Now, this is something that your textbook doesn't cover. It's a bit too advanced for a program like Excel to do. So, we're going to exclusively work in Tableau on this type of analysis. The goal of cluster analysis is to group similar data points together. These groups, or clusters, contain items that are more similar to each other than they are to items in other clusters. And what's exciting about that is we're uncovering patterns that might not be obvious at first glance. Imagine we have a spreadsheet of products that a company sells. We can run a cluster analysis to discover that some products are sold very highly and return rarely, while others are cheaper, sell quickly, but have a high return rate. Understanding these groupings and how they emerge naturally help us define them and make business decisions. Now, for those of you who have some background in machine learning, cluster analysis is different from something like classification, where we're going to tell the model what labels to look for. With clustering, we're saying you figure out the groups based on the structure of the data. So, at its core, cluster analysis is about finding meaningful patterns in messy data. And that's why it's so valuable. The data gets to speak for itself. Now, why does cluster analysis matter in business? Simply, it helps people make smarter decisions by organizing complex data into manageable and actionable ideas. One of the most common uses is customer segmentation. Businesses use clustering to group customers based on purchase behavior, income level, location, or how often they interact with the brand. For example, one cluster might represent loyal, high spending customers, and another might capture occasional bargain shoppers. Once you know that these groups exist, you can tailor your marketing strategies specifically to the people in those groups. Another application is product grouping. That's what we're going to practice later this week. Product grouping might involve finding products that are best sellers, which are often returned, and which ones perform better online than in store. These insights can guide inventory, pricing, and promotional strategies. A third use is market segmentation. Companies often need to understand how behaviors change across geographic regions. Are customers in California buying differently than those in North Carolina? Clustering helps answer questions like that without needing to impose categories up front. Now, here's the best part. You don't need a business background to use clustering well. It's really about thinking what kinds of things behave similarly and what can I do with that knowledge? Now, for those of you who like to know behind the scenes what the machine is doing, let's talk about how cluster analysis work. Tableau takes care of the technical heavy lifting from us using something called k-means clustering in the background. That's a method that tries to divide your output into k groups, where k is a variable that is undefined, could be any number. So each of these k groups has a center called a centroid, and Tableau assigns each data point to a group with the nearest centroid. So essentially, think of k-means as finding center points across the data and identifying which data points are closest to which of those centers. This will be less abstract when we see it live in Tableau next. Here, I've loaded the data from your homework assignment into Tableau. As always, we want to be very sure that Tableau has correctly read in the types of data we have. Tableau requires at least, well, any program requires at least two continuous variables to engage in cluster analysis. For this video demonstration, I'm going to use return rate and units sold. We've talked before about scatter plots and how you really want Tableau to show you all of the different points available. The recommendation to this point has been using the dimension option to ensure that Tableau knows you want to actually plot all of the data on that dimension. But we're going to have to do something different in order to engage in cluster analysis. Do you remember when we said one of the options is to take a categorical variable that is unique to each row of data and assign it to detail? That's what we're going to do this time. We do this because we need for Tableau to think about our data in terms of continuous non-aggregated data as it works through the cluster. So now under the Analytics tab, we have the option to take the clustering tool and drag it into our data set. We confirm, yes, we want both of these continuous variables considered in the cluster analysis, and we could add a third or a fourth if we wanted. And now, look, we have 4 different clusters of data. The technical portion of cluster analysis is just that short and simple. The final and most important step is the interpretation, and this is where your storytelling skills come in. Take a second to think through each of the clusters here and what having that data clustered together might mean. Think about what makes cluster 1 different from cluster 2, what kinds of actions I would take if I were managing these products, which clusters might need more marketing support or price adjustments. What do these classification and clusterings mean, and what can I do with it in a business sense? Cluster number 3 contains products with high units sold and low return rates. These are likely products that have customers that return to get them. They're customer favorites. They're quality. Customers are satisfied with them. We have a dedicated base here. So these are products that we're going to need to keep in stock and promote and use as models for future offerings. We have a lot of confidence in cluster 3. Something you might want to do as a business is think about bundling these products with other products to try to get your customers to expand and try new things, because these are the dedicated products we know they're going to come back for. Cluster 1, on the other hand, while these units are also sold at a high volume, they have a high return rate. They sell well, but people don't hold on to them. This means there might be issues with the product quality, misleading descriptions, or some sort of other unmet expectations. Someone in charge of sales at this organization would need to investigate the product reviews or support tickets to find out why they're being returned. Is it a description issue? Is it a quality issue? If it's a quality issue, stop stocking those products. If it's a description issue, change the way you're communicating to customers, because these products right here are products that are going to damage your reputation. Here are the products that we're most worried about. We need to know what's going on here. Are these products outdated? Are they low quality? Do they not meet customer needs anymore? These are the products that you're going to want to consider discontinuing, or at least not keeping a very high inventory of, because these products are the ones that not only are they not selling well, when they do, your customers aren't happy with them. So here are your problem child products. Then over here, cluster number 2, these are the products that aren't sold very often, but they have a very low return rate. These are your niche products, things that have been overlooked. Now, it's possible that the product only appeals to a small group of people. It's also possible that it appeals to a much larger group of people, but they don't know about it. But these are products that you might want to consider marketing more broadly to see if these reliable products that aren't being returned can appeal to a wider customer base. As you work on your own cluster analysis with this data set this week, your goal is to think through things just like I did. Not only are you going to produce the visual, but think through, what does it mean for a product to exist within this cluster? And as someone who is in charge of these products, what recommendations do you mean for how the business move forward in regard to these products? Let me know if you have any questions.